almost universally practiced. Democracy is one form of government that is very popular in the world, especially for people who don't like the government in form of autocracy and so on. The existence of the idea of democracy is due to dissatisfaction with the previous government. Democracy is often associated with the rights and freedom. The world is currently witnessing the rise of people in Colombia, Brazil, India and France in the name of democratic right. The democracy gives the idea of government that is ruled by the people, where every decision made should be based on the voice of people and take into account the collective needs in the country. A democratic system also looks after and protects its people by always ensuring the laws implemented are equal regardless of race and culture because of the nature of democracy, which defines equality. Malaysia is not a really democratic country despite implementing a parliamentary system based on Westminster system that has a division of power into three bodies of the government. There is additional information that Malaysia ranked 5th in the list of the best democratic practice in Asia for 2017. That means Malaysia is getting a second chance of economic and institutional reform while building a sustainable economy and a society divided by the division of race and religion.
My name is Putri Yasmin Fatihah binti Malik Muhammad and my matrix number is 2021896296. I will be presenting the theoretical frameworks related to our topic. Theory are the general point of view from which one perceive and understand the world. It's not concerned with the social reality itself, but rather with how to perceive, comprehend and express it. That is, pay attention to our language and conceptual resources. From the Tocqueville perspective, he believed that democracy was government by the people, and he saw this to be the case in the United States during his 1813 tours. He proclaimed that the people ruled the American political world as God rules the universe. Another theory from another scholar that is related to our issues is Malaysia really a democracy, which is according to Scampeter. Countries that are typically referred to as a democracy are actually not ruled by the people or by a majority of the populations as a whole, but by the elected officials along with unelected political parties and bureaucratic functionaries. This is undeniably the case where authorities adopt policies in accordance with their own interests or assessments of what is best done every 5 years to avoid the upheavals of ongoing elections of referendums. According to Scampeter, this public is a uniform group bound together by a general will. Scampeter contends that democracies can still be evaluated according to the degree to which they meet the requirements for a successful democratic system, despite the fact that any political society with free elections is equally democratic by these definitions. These prerequisites include the availability of capable political leaders, the assurance that matters requiring specialized knowledge or talent will be decided by experts rather than lay people, a well-trained bureaucracy, a populace that tolerates one another and is open to giving politicians a fair amount of leeway in making decisions. In order to expand democracy, ensure political elections, and defend rights and freedoms, as in the case in Malaysia, there must be a separation of power and the applications of the law. For instance, Lins and Stevens contend that the democratic transition isn't complete until the new democracy is capable of generating its own executive, legislative, judicial functions independently of other entities.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Afia Farhana and my matrix number is 2021610592 and I will be expanding on the research methodology. What is research methodology? Research methodology is defined as an activity that involves finding out in a more or less systematic way things you didn't know. Therefore, we use the qualitative approach for this research that focus on a general way of thinking by truly analyzing the data. For this research, we use the journal article entitled Semi-Democracy in Malaysia, Withstanding the Pressure for Regime Change by William Case to collect data regarding Malaysia political structure and determine whether Malaysia is a really democratic country. From the journal article, the term semi-democracy itself refers to a political system that possesses elements of both democratic and authoritarian governance. In the context of Malaysia, it might imply a system where democratic process and institutions exist to some extent, but there are also restrictions on political freedom and limited space for regime change. Historically, Malaysia has been characterized as a country with a dominant ruling party, which is UMNO, the United Malay National Organisation, which held the power for several decades. The political landscape in Malaysia had witnessed significant change in the recent year, with the opposition coalition, Pakatan Harapan, winning the general election in 2018. This marked the first time in Malaysia history that the ruling party had been voted out of power. So, is Malaysia a really democratic country? I will pass to Izzati to explain more. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nur Izzati binti Zainal Abdin, my student number 20216577028. Today I will discuss about definition of democracy. Democracy is a form of government that in order to be effective not only encourage but also involve participation by the public in the political process. The idea of democracy came from the ancient Greek words demos meaning people and kratos meaning rule. There are several types of democracy, which are direct democracy, representative democracy, parliamentary democracy, and also constitutional democracy. A direct democracy refers to a form of direct citizen involvement in democratic decision making. Direct democracy can be governed by a citizen assembly through effort and election in which voters cast ballot for specific concern rather than for particular politician or parties. Representative democracy, also known as indirect democracy, allows people to have a voice in political decisions, unlike direct democracy where people vote on law, and autocracy where dictators hold absolute power. A parliamentary democracy where voters choose representatives to establish parliament. In parliamentary democracy where representatives decide on public policy by a majority vote. There are some bicameral parliament in parliamentary democracy. A constitutional democracy is the type of democracy with a written constitution in which individual rights, freedoms, and legal limitations on the government are all written out.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Syamimi Kaisara binti Mustafa Kamal and my matrix number is 2021899248. So I will present about the characteristic of democracy. The first characteristic is it gives the opportunities to the people in determining and choosing the leaders to lead the country. They are given the right to vote in elections voluntarily and without caution. It is to ensure that their needs and wishes are not neglected for the sake of guaranteed well-being. For example, we can see the parliamentary democracy in Malaysia about the proposal of Vote 80 and automatic voter registration was agreed by all members of parliament and was successfully implemented in the 15th general election, which is the latest election in Malaysia. It shows that the involvement of the people, especially the young generation, is very important because they are the future leaders. Next, the system also has elected representatives to represent the people in their areas and who are elected in election. They have an important role in achieving their objective by gaining the trust of the community. They are responsible for voicing society's problems and opinions because they act as intermediaries between the people and the government. Finally, the last characteristic is it having diverse political party. They have a main objective that needs to be achieved which is to develop a form of government in a country by making their ideology acceptable and practiced by the common people. Usually, every political party will compete in the election by bringing various manifestos that promise the people to take care of their well-being. For example, most countries such as Argentina, Philippines, and Malaysia have used the multi-party system since long time ago. It's involved many parties in the election and each of them will campaign to attract the most votes from the people and they can form a government. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurul Ainan Hia binti Muhammad Asri. My ID number is 2021841176. So I'm going to discuss what the topic is Malaysia really a democracy country? Looking at the characteristic of democracy, we can see that Malaysian has two characteristics. Like the first characteristic, the people have the choice to choose the leader that they want. And yes, it is true that Malaysian can choose their leader through the election system, and Malaysian can vote starting at the age of 18, and those who want to vote must follow the condition that has been set, such as being sound of mind. This voting system also allow each leader to voice their opinions and problem of the people in their place. And the next characteristic is that we have a diversity of political parties in Malaysia. In Malaysia, we are not only focused on one political party, the people also can choose any political party they want, and all these characteristics are present in Malaysia. But therefore, it's true that Malaysia is a democracy country, but in my opinion, there's like some point that have to contradict with this characteristic. The first contradictory point is that people have the opportunity to vote for politicians that they want. I somehow disagree with this point because if you see, our society is tied to the propaganda made by other political parties. Our society is filled with the propaganda about religion and race. A variety of fake news is made so that the public can vote for them and then vote for other political parties. For example, if the public vote for political party P, then Islam will be abolished and the special right of the Malays will be dissolved. And that's how actually propaganda is being created, and so that our people are afraid to vote for political parties B. For me, this is one of the dirty ways that have tied the democracy, and used to this kind of propaganda, people easily feel anxious and have no other choice, and our people are still confined to the narrative of religion and race. Therefore, as a good political party, we should not play with this issue of religion and race because it is very sensitive issue. The second point is when this elected leader is given the responsibility and trust to help solve problem and voice the opinions of the people. But what we can see now that most politicians are not carrying out their responsibility very well. There are among them who have a bad attendance record in the parliament, and there are also those who take advantage of their position that they have now. And this matter is actually a very big issue because the future of the country, it depends on their representative, and this is because they are the one who will solve all the issues that happen in the nation. So if this problem solver is useless, then who else gonna solve this country problem? If these politicians are still not aware of themselves and continue to ignore their national responsibility, we will remain as a third-class country. The last conflicting issue is regarding having a diversity of political parties. Yes, it is true that we in Malaysia have a variety of political parties and our people have the choice to vote, but what creates a problem is when there are politicians who practice the concept of party hopping. For example, the people choose Abu as a representative of the N party, but after winning the election, Abu changed his party to the P party. This is something that should not happen because the people trust him in the party, but if some politician change party without a good reason, then it will diminish the number of a representative of each party. This should not be happen because changing parties is an act that violates a trust. So in my opinion, Malaysia is actually a semi-democratic country, even though the characteristic is actually exists in Malaysian democracy. Therefore, we as a Malaysian should try to pressure the government to create a democratic country. Thank you.
Through this challenging discussion, it is difficult to determine whether Malaysia is a democratic country or not. Everyone thought that Malaysia is a democratic country, but Malaysia's status as democratic country is a complex issue to be decided easily. Through this assignment, it has become clear that Malaysia exhibits all the characteristics of a democracy if we take a closer look at them. Malaysia has all the hallmark of a democracy, but Malaysia is instead a semi-democracy because there are something that seem to contradict the characteristic. Besides, there are still challenges that raise questions about the effectiveness of its democracy, and continuous effort are needed to strengthen the system and protect human rights. But Malaysia is able to stand as a successful parliamentary democracy because of the tenacity of its unique people support, which is based on racial diversity. It is hoped that Malaysia will be able to move towards a country that implements a democratic system that prioritizes the needs of the majority rather than making decisions to meet the wishes of the political elites.